Today we are making lemon poppy seed ricotta cookies. I love me a good lemon dessert. So to start, we're going to get out a medium bowl. We're going to combine 2 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, with 2.5 tablespoons of poppy seeds. As well as 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So give that a good mix. Make sure you get everything all incorporated really well. And go ahead and set that bowl aside. Get yourself out a large mixing bowl. The recipe says to use an electric stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer. If you're using a stand mixer, the recipe says to use the paddle attachment. If you're new to my channel, I'll let you know that I don't have any sort of electric mixer that I use for my doughs, so I'm just doing this by hand, which means you can make this without a hand mixer or stand mixer as well. So to our large mixing bowl, we are going to need some lemon zest. You're going to want 2 tablespoons. I gave my lemons a good clean, and then I grate them on a microplane or on the really small grates that you might grate some Parmesan cheese on. And you only want to get down just to the white of the rind. You don't want to grate the white part because that is bitter. Now the recipe called for 2 tablespoons of zest. I used 3. Next time I would use 4. When I eat a lemon dessert, I don't want it whispering lemon to me. I want it to punch me right in the face. It's a lemon dessert. So recipe says 2 tablespoons. I used 3. Next time I would do 4. But put that lemon zest into your large mixing bowl along with a 1/2 cup of butter softened and 1 cup of white sugar. Mine looks beige tan here because I am using raw sugar. If you've never used raw sugar, I would go ahead and give it a try. You can smell the difference. It smells so good compared to white sugar, which doesn't really smell like much at all. But go ahead and cream your butter, sugar, and lemon zest together really well. It takes a lot longer by hand, so I honestly don't cream my butter together the best. It's because I'm lazy. That's the only reason. I think it may affect the texture. I think if I were to cream it fully, it would have such a smoother texture, but these cookies were not grainy at all, so use your own discretion. Then we are going to add 1 large egg and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Mix those in really well. And then it's time for our ricotta. I'm using whole milk ricotta. That's what the recipe calls for. Whole milk versus, is it skim or part skim ricotta? The fat from the whole milk ricotta will just bring flavor and roundness to your recipe. So I say go for the whole milk ricotta. Again, 1 cup. Add that right to your butter sugar mixture. Give that a good mix in. And once it is all combined, go ahead and add the dry ingredients, the flour mixture that we had set aside, to your wet ingredients. Fold it all together. Now go ahead and scrape down the sides of your bowl. Make sure you do have all of your flour mixed in. Make sure you scrape all the way to the bottom and around the sides. Get all that cookie dough goodness off of your spatula or your spoon or your paddle. And then we're going to cover our bowl because the dough needs to chill. Now I usually don't love cookie recipes that you have to wait for the dough to chill because I just want to go ahead and make the cookies so I can eat them. But I think these are worth it. So I covered my bowl with some plastic wrap and we're going to chill this for 1 to 2 hours. I chilled mine for 1 hour, and then as I reached the end of cooking my cookies, baking my cookies, The ones at the end had a little more volume, stood a little taller than the first round that I did. So if you can wait the 2 hours, I would wait the 2 hours. Now, towards the end of your cookie dough chilling time, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And then I lined my cookie sheet with parchment paper, and we're gonna drop our cookie dough by 1.5 tablespoon balls. Now you can do whatever size you want, but 1.5 tablespoons was perfect. It aligns with the cook time. So I like to use a cookie scooper. Mine is 1.5 tablespoons. I'll link the one I have or one similar down below. So these do not spread out a ton, so I spaced mine out 1 or 2 inches. These cookies are going to bake for 12 to 14 minutes or until the tops of them are just set. So what that means is when you bake cookies, the heat makes the dough all glossy. So when you cook these at 12 minutes, you're gonna take a look at your cookies and you want the very tops of them, the very center tops of them, to be no longer glossy. They'll be matte. That is when they are set. We're going to cover our unbaked cookie dough back up and pop it back in the fridge until we're ready to scoop out more cookie dough and bake more cookies. While your cookies are baking, we're going to make our cookie frosting. Now, don't skip the frosting. These cookies are not super sweet on their own, and even with the frosting, they're not super sweet. So go ahead and make the frosting. If you want to leave it off, you can absolutely do that. But in a small bowl, we're going to put 1 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, along with 2.5 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. If you can use fresh, that would be my suggestion. If you need to use bottled, go ahead and do that. But since we needed lemon zest for this recipe, you probably already have the lemons, so go ahead and just use that lemon juice. This icing, did I call it frosting? This icing is easy enough to whisk together with a whisk by hand, so go ahead and do that. A spoon would do just fine as well. It may seem a little tough to start, but it'll all get worked in. But make sure you get all the lumps out and you have a nice smooth frosting. And if you are using fresh lemon juice, make sure to take out any seeds that may have dropped in there. Go ahead and set that aside. Don't worry, it will be fine at room temperature until we are ready to use it. But once your cookies are done, let's pull those out of the oven and let them sit on the pan for 3 minutes, give or take, until they cool slightly, because they are pretty soft. And then transfer them to a wire rack. And then get your dough that's chilling back out and just keep scooping out dough and baking it until you bake up all of your cookies. This recipe does make about 32. I think I got 33 or 34 cookies. Now our cookies need to cool completely, or else the icing is just gonna melt right off of them. So go ahead, set your cookies aside, and then once they have cooled, it is time to ice them. Now, I guess you could put your icing into a piping bag or into a Ziploc and snip one of the ends off and then just pipe the icing on. I just use a spoon. It's a pretty rustic look to them. At first I tried maybe a little zigzag action, but the icing is thin enough that it's just going to spread out. And then you can take any leftover lemon zest you have, or if you intentionally want to zest some lemon rind, and sprinkle a little bit on top of all of your cookies. It just gives a pretty pop of color to your cookies. but then you're ready to go. The icing will set up a little bit, but for these cookies, I would, after the first day or two, I would store them in the fridge because they're so moist that if they don't get eaten, I fear that they would mold really easily. But these cookies, I love the texture. They're so soft and they're a little dense and they're just so satisfying. Again, I will link the original recipe down below, but I will type out all of the ingredients and the instructions. If you guys think these cookies would be delicious, give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe for more content, and if you guys are looking for another delicious cookie recipe, go ahead, click here on screen, and I will see you guys there.